Great, so you've started your blog and you're even making a little bit of money. Now what? If you are looking at blogging for any kind of profit, running your blog like a business from the start will save you a major headache later. But setting things up can seem daunting, right? Hi, I'm Liz Stapleton, host of the Blogger Breakthrough Summit. Welcome to the podcast. In today's episode, I'm sharing some knowledge dropped by Eric Nisall, personal finance guru, during the 2020 Blogger Breakthrough Summit. Let's go ahead and dive in.
There's really no downside to starting off as a full-blown business, as opposed to the other way around, when you have to, start changing everything and start applying for EINs and starting to incorporate mid-year and do all that other crap.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a cost to it, right? But an EIN's free to get. Okay, how much? If you're going to go the LLC route, which we'll touch on a little bit later, that's going to vary widely depending on where you're located. It could be $30 to $500. So that just depends. A QuickBooks, subscription fee is what, $30 a month, depending on what level.
Depending on who you know.
Yeah, depending on who you know.
A pro advisor, who holds the subscription for you or creates it for you, they can get it for 50% off. Unless you deal with, and I dealt with these people before, my quote unquote sales advisor with my pro advisor side, they're like, oh, we're offering 5 for 5, like 5 deluxe version or whatever it was for $5. And you could go pay $5 for it and then charge your clients $50, the full price. I'm like, I'm not a douchebag. I'm not going to make money off my clients that way.
Yeah.
So, you have to know who you're dealing with, but there are going to be costs to everything.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the costs are going to be worth it.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that if you invest in it that way, you're more likely to take it serious as business.
Yeah.
So that you're going to start generating revenue probably faster just because of the motivation and mindset you're using.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you're starting out, look at those things, but set up, like you said, a strong bookkeeping system.
I mean, I'm not, married to any one, thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, FreshBooks is not a real accounting program. They don't give you the bank reconciliations. They don't let you track assets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't go with that. But if you're used to using a spreadsheet, use a spreadsheet.
That's fine too.
Whatever's going to keep you engaged and tracking your money, that's really what you need to use, Yeah.
That way you can, do your deductions and figure out your taxes and all that stuff. Because I've also been guilty of not reconciling for 6 months, which is also a bad one. I know. I am like the prime example of what not to do. But I'm working on it and I'm getting better. It's a process. But I also didn't start right, like you're suggesting. So
right. You didn't have this summit to, set you on the right path.
Exactly. So I'm trying to help others where I fail.
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing that's important when you're starting out, which I actually did do, very proud of, is separate bank accounts, because I didn't necessarily have a business account for the first couple of years, but I had a specific credit card I used just for blogging stuff. I have multiple checking accounts. I'm in the personal finance space. I had a specific checking account for stuff. So separate bank accounts can really help you in kind of keeping that separate and having that mindset as well. So how would you suggest, how many separate bank accounts do you need? What would you suggest in that front?
I believe in simplicity. So you have one bank account for your checking, your actual transactions. And then if you need one, have a savings account, for like emergency funds. Because even a business needs an emergency fund.
Oh, absolutely.
If you get sick and you are running your own business, you don't get PTO, paid time off. You don't get sick days. You don't get holidays, any of that other stuff. So you need to have, a backlog to pay your, if you're doing the S corp and you have salary, you want to have an emergency fund to maintain your salary. If you have an office that you work out of, like a co-working space or whatever, because you can't work at home because you have kids running around, stuff like that, you want to be able to have money to pay your co-working space and, all that other stuff. Yeah. So, one checking account, one savings account. I can't stand people that have like 15,000 accounts and they transfer, money back and forth like 8,000 times a month, because that creates more confusion. And, the more accounts and the more transactions you have, the more work that goes into it. So in reality, if you have one checking account and one credit card for your business, you would think, oh, well, I have one for personal, one for business. It's going to be twice the work. It's really not, because when you're separating it, you're eliminating the need to take the time and go line by line by line. Like if you have two different, you have one business, one personal, everything in here is business, everything in here is personal. You don't have to go and do the line breakouts and say, okay, what was this? What was that? What was the other thing? And you're less likely to take something that doesn't belong in the business. And you're also less likely to forget something that should be in the business, but you left on the personal side.
Yeah.
So by having everything in one account, it's all simple because, hey, guess what? The only thing that's in here is business stuff.
Okay, hopefully Eric's tips in this episode will help you get your blogging business set up right from the start, or help you fix some mistakes going forward. Be sure to join me next time when we'll be talking about how to use keywords to rank your content on search engines. See you then.